Working with Clint is, I mean, it's like working with a wife you divorced twice. It's you know, it's always really hard, but it's very beautiful, the outcome, and that's because it's like he is a perfectionist, and he likes everything to be original and unique. But the problem with that is it takes so much time. But the product is always incredible, and one of the best, always some of the best days of making a movie is when Clint's stuff shows up and you lay it into picture. It's one of the most exciting parts. Since the beginning, it's always been that way. Well, I think all movies will be erased eventually. You know, it's just a matter of time until we're all gone. But I don't know, which one would I save? I don't know. You know, it's a very hard question because there's so many different things. You know, people talk about their films as children, and there is some truth to that. I do like my child more than I like my films. But I think, you know, for a long time it was The Fountain. That was the one I put most, you know, we worked the hardest on and spent the most spirit on. But then I realized there's something great about not working so hard sometimes, and there's sometimes good things come out of being a little bit more relaxed. And that was a big lesson for me when I worked on The Wrestler. Just because I couldn't work that hard on The Wrestler because, you know, Mickey showed up to set 3-4 hours late every day, so. But it was, so I don't know which one I would save. And there was a first part of that question, but somehow I forgot what it was. So, I know what it was, I just want to move on. So next question. So that you could ask that question.
So you don't even know why?
I just, Stanley Herman, who plays that character, is an actor I ran into when I was in film school. He came in and he was a guy from Brooklyn, 30, 40 years, maybe 50, 60 years ahead of me. And I just liked his personality. And so I wrote him a part called The Pervert in my student film. And so I've sort of used him as the pervert, and he's also the guy who screams ass to ass in Requiem for a Dream. So he's just a funny guy, and it's always fun to have him around, so I always write him something so that he's around. But actually, that scene in Pi, he sang a song for I Only Have Eyes for You, which is an old standard. And it actually saved me that moment because there was a company interested in buying Pi before we went to Sundance when we were desperate and hungry, and they were offering us a terrible deal. And the only problem was that song, we found out after we recorded it, it wasn't in the public domain. After 75 years, the copyright's gone and it becomes public domain and you can sing it. But it was like 4 or 5 years away from being free. And they wanted $25,000 for us to use it, which was more than the budget of the movie. And so the person who was trying to buy it from us didn't want me to use it. They wanted me to replace it. And I was like, absolutely not. I love it. And so we didn't replace it, and we said basically F you to those people. And we went to Sundance and ended up making a much better deal. So there you go. Stanley saved.
Thank you.
It's a good question. Well, look, you know, I've always had interests to make big films that are entertaining, you know, because I grew up in the, you know, I started really becoming aware of films in the early 80s when the blockbuster began, so Steven Spielberg's and George Lucas's movies were a big influence on me, and I've always wanted to have an audience like that. That's always been a dream to make, you know, tell big stories that everyone relates to, because I think when you tell stories, you want people to like them. But ultimately, you tell stories that you feel deep in your heart, you know. So I've tried to tell some of these bigger stories, but when I've had the opportunity to really tell something that's in my heart, because of how difficult filmmaking is, I've gone with the stuff that's more passionate to me, and that's worked out really successfully for me, luckily. You know, and hopefully the new film Noah will combine those two, because it's a big idea with a big movie stars, and the story, I think, is very universal. So I hope people will connect with it in a big way. And then what was my three favorite actors? Is that it? That I've worked with or I haven't worked with? Either. Well, it's definitely going to be people I worked with, because I don't know people I haven't worked with. And I can't start picking 3 out of all of them, because someone's going to get pissed. But, you know, for me, every actor I've had a great time with. You know, I've been really lucky working with, you know, incredible actors. Como? Vincent Cassel, yeah, he's great. He's a good friend, and he's a great guy, and he's very relaxed. I mean, I could tell you about the different actors and stuff, but they're all beautiful in different ways. So, you know, I gotta be political. Well, I think that just comes from what I've always been doing in my film work. Is I'm very interested in subjective filmmaking, which is putting the audience in the character's head. So I've used a lot of POV, which is point of view, which is basically what the person is seeing. And then sometimes I manipulate that and to sort of show what the mental state of the person is. So it became really a very easy idea for us that we would show what it was like from the point of view of the dancer. And technically all we did is we took the camera and spun it really fast. It was actually harder to do than you'd think, because in today's modern filmmaking, there's lots of cables that are hanging off of it, and also to get the weight right. But we just ended up spinning the cameras, and a really good cameraman would spin it, and when it came around, he would catch it and then spin it again. So it was just that type of technique. Well, it's funny, we make this joke all the time. We talk about it because when we made Pi, you know, we didn't have cell phones. But how many people in the room don't remember a world without cell phones, is the question. But we literally didn't have cell phones, so, you know, you would tell people, hey, you gotta meet somewhere, and then you would actually meet there. You know, people would actually be there, and if you were late, you were fucking late. You couldn't call and say, I'm running late. You were late, and it sucked. So they were like, you know, I don't think people really meet anymore. They just sort of call up and go, oh, where are you? And they go, oh, I'm over there, and then you see each other. So, but that was strange. We didn't even have we just maybe had walkie-talkies, and they worked maybe 25, 30 feet, you know, so that was it. So that was weird. You know, it's been a radical change. You know, Requiem for a Dream has, well, let's talk about Pi first. Pi, there was no digital effects. So the title sequence, you know, when the Pi comes up, that was done on a cheap, I think it was a Macintosh actually, and we actually filmed it off the screen of the Macintosh. And that's how it became it, and it was just some guy who liked to program with his computer. But we talked about at the time, we wanted to go out and we had the whole idea of marketing it by believing there was like that Max Cohen, the main character, was a real person. So we went into these weird math Usenet groups, which were early internet, and we started putting in like fake postings about this guy, Max Cohen, to try and start this marketing campaign, which has happened now in so many other films. They've tried to, you know, what is real and what is not, you know. But we were trying to play with that before we had the tools to do that. And Requiem for a Dream, amazingly, has no digital effects either. You know, now in today's world, it's pretty amazing. If you are shooting a scene between me and Daniel, and as the director, you're not happy with the way he's responding to my comments, maybe that smile he just did was a little too early, you know, because he was a little too clever and he's supposed to be a really dumb character, so you want him to smile later. What you can do is you can split the screen in half now, and you can slow him down, and then I can make the joke and he could smile later, and you could actually change your perception of him as a character. we do that nonstop now. We're basically, you know, I'm not happy with one part of a performance, and I can, you know, I mean, you know, on Black Swan there must be 70, 80 times we kind of adjusted the performances by just doing that simple split. But you can do incredible things now. You know, if an actor shows up with a pimple, it's not an issue anymore. You know, it's gone forever. You know, but all the tools you have in Photoshop are now fully available in filmmaking. So it's completely changed. It's also the cost of making movies now is more expensive, and we talk about this. It's more expensive, so you have less time. But you have many more tools to fix things. So it used to be if you filmed something and the boom was in the shot, the boom, you know, the mic is in the shot. There's nothing you can do about it. The mic is in the shot, you know. Now it's gone. Like in The Wrestler, if you guys watch The Wrestler, we called them bogeys. If someone, you know, looked into the lens, it was a bogey. Now, anytime someone looks into the lens as a viewer when you're watching it, it's really weird. Because it sort of breaks it breaks the wall of the illusion, you know. So we have tons of people, and when we were at The Wrestler, we were shooting at real wrestling events, and those people didn't give a shit, so they were just staring right into the camera at times, you know, and even like, so what we did is, we did a very simple thing. We just basically shut their eyes. So people are blinking for a really long time in The Wrestler, and you'll just see a lot of people just like this in the movie. And that's the reason, because we just made their eyes go away. So, but if we were shooting that, you know, back in the day, when we didn't have those tools, it would have taken a lot longer. So it's a question, what's better, the time or the technology?